All right, boys and girls, real quick, be sure to follow the Real Talk Sports Podcast on Instagram at Real Talk Sports Pod. You can also find us on TikTok and Twitter. Be sure to subscribe to the Real Talk Sports Podcast here on Spotify. We are also now on YouTube, so go and check that out. And if you're watching from YouTube, well, thank you. I am joined by a very special guest today, Evan Wanish. He is the co-host of the Cannon Fire Podcast, which covers all things Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the account manager of Bucs Daily on Instagram. That's at Bucs__daily. Evan, how is it going?
Doing really well, man. How are you? Thanks for having me on. Appreciate
Absolutely. Now that football's back, I'm
right.
wonderful. I'm so excited for the season. It feels like it's been an eternity. I'm really excited to get into it. And what better way to start with America's team and the defending Super Bowl champions?
Yeah, it's not really a better way you can kick off the season, right? Especially the last game of the season was in Raymond James Stadium. Now the first game of the season is going to be in the same spot. So
absolutely. It's so exciting. You going to the game?
I am not actually. Little known fact, I don't live in Florida.
Okay.
It's something that a lot of people do not know. Sort of the people that have followed specifically the Instagram page since way back. I started in 2013, so like the early followers really know this, but most people don't. I live in Pennsylvania, so cool. I do get down for a game. I've been to multiple games, but I do not live in Florida.
Absolutely, yeah. All right, so a couple things to point out going into the game. Dallas guard Zach Martin tested positive for COVID, so he will be out for the game. Tackle Lael Collins, he also was questionable. For the Buccaneers, we have Jordan Whitehead will also be out for the season opener, meaning safety Mike Edwards will be starting at safety for the Buccaneers. I think Mike Edwards, he'll do just fine. How do you feel about that situation?
Yeah, I like Mike Edwards. I know the Bucs do as well. Safety is one of the spots where they're kind of deep there, especially now that they added Andrew Adams back to the practice squad. So in case something else were to happen, obviously this year with COVID and guys getting sick or being on the list, off the list, plus your normal injuries, you're not sure who's going to be available on a week-to-week basis. So with Whitehead, it's an injury. He missed the entire preseason and pretty much all training camp. I think there was 1 week where he practiced and that was it. But as far as specifically talking about Mike Edwards goes, it's a bit of a different player. It's Mike Edwards is more of a ball hawking safety, whereas Jordan Whitehead's sort of like that strong safety, like a typical strong safety. And I think Edwards will do just fine. I'm not sure if he's a guy you want starting all 16 games. So hopefully Whitehead can get back, rather quickly, because I do think Whitehead's a better player. But as far as a game or two goes, I have faith in Edwards. I know the Bucs do as well.
Oh yeah, that's great. So how do you think this game will play out, and how do you feel about Dak Prescott entering the season? Obviously, Dak coming off that injury. How do you think he will be? And like I said, how do you think this game will play out?
Well, I think this game could be pretty high scoring. And I know the Buccaneers defense, I think it's a good defense. I'm confident that it's a good defense. Whenever I say that it's high scoring, people think, oh my God, you're trashing the Bucs defense. I'm not saying that. It's more about the Dallas offense than anything. It's a really, really good offense. Their wide receiver trio is almost just as good as the Bucs is.
Absolutely.
I mean, they still have a solid offensive line, even though they are missing their best one, who that's going to hurt. And then also, they have Ezekiel and Tony Pollard. So really, it's going to come down to, what kind of Dak are they going to be getting? Because this is a guy who hasn't played since October 11th was the last time he played. October 11th last year was the last time he played a football game, any live action really. So it's not like you're getting a cupcake game to start the year. You're getting a game against the Super Bowl champ. So I think it'll take him a few weeks to get his footing. That doesn't mean I think he's going to come out here and just play bad. I think he's going to play fine, but I do think it's going to take three or four games to get back into the swing of things for Dak.
Yeah, it'd be completely normal to have a little bit of rust on your shoulders, especially when it's been so long since you played. So yeah, I completely understand you on that part. Yeah, and I agree with you as well. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think it could potentially be somewhat of a shootout. I ultimately expect the Buccaneers to get over that obstacle, but maybe the defense gets off to a slow start. Like I said, rust on your shoulders could be something, or maybe some miscues, whatever it might be. But when you have two high caliber offenses, like you said, the great wide receiver trios, arguably you could argue that they are the two best wide receiver trios in the league. Um, so yeah, I think this will be a high scoring game. I think Dak, like you said, I think it's possible he has the rust on his shoulders. But yeah, I mean, it's Dak Prescott. I think he was just on such a great pace last season before that injury. So I mean, you can't sleep on him. You can't just expect that he's going to be uh, out of it, if you will. But yeah, I think it's going to be a very high scoring game.
Yeah, it's two high powered offenses, but
Hmm.
I think I have to give the Bucs the edge in this game just because the Bucs
Of
have the
course.
better defense.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think that's what it's going to come down to. The defense of the teams. I think it's going to be which defense makes that play first.
Yeah, it's like the difference here, and the big difference really is that the Buccaneers have a top defense, and the Cowboys just simply do not.
Mhm.
Their defense is not great. They obviously had a defensive heavy draft. Michael Parsons was added to the mix, but you know how much will that change? I guess we will see. But just simply put, the Buccaneers will come over the Cowboys eventually in that game. Maybe some miscues, maybe good start for the Cowboys, but yeah, Buccaneers are going to get there.
Yeah. Yep.
So we'll start with this side of the perspective. You being someone who covers the Buccaneers, name some keys to victory for the Buccaneers here on Thursday.
Well, I think when you're looking at as far as the offense goes, I think you got to keep the play action. It worked. We all saw last year after the bye week, they really started to use the play action and it was effective.
Hmm.
So I think you got to stick with that. Just stick with what got you to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, the last few weeks of the season, the offense was awesome. And a lot of it was because they started to use more play action and they're really good at it. And they just didn't use it a lot early in the season last year. Hopefully, they've learned their lesson and we're going to see a full season of play action. As far as the defense goes, I'll give one key and it's, well, I'll give two actually. It's keeping Prescott sort of uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's keeping him sort of on his toes. You can't give him all day, because he even if he hasn't had live action, he's a good enough quarterback and
Hmm.
they have good enough weapons where if you give him all day, he's going to find somebody. And as
Yeah.
far as the secondary goes, just make sure you have your P's and Q's. We talked about the wide receiver trio already. It's not easy, and as much as it's hard for Dallas's defense to go up against the Bucs trio in the week one,
Hmm.
it's also the same side for the Bucs secondary with Dallas's trio. So
Absolutely.
just stay on your toes.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more there. Test that. I mean, a consistent pass rush is basically vital against an offense like that. You said it very well. One thing that I would like to say is we must not create costly penalties, especially on third down situations. The Bucs have had that issue in the past against teams that they should be maybe perhaps like the Chicago Bears game last season.
Yeah.
So it's very vital that we do not create costly penalties on the defensive side of the ball. But yeah, and like you said as well, do not turn the ball over. They're giving Dallas more opportunities. It's a recipe for disaster. Just don't do it. Don't turn the ball over. Easier said than done, but yeah, you cannot do that. So we'll go to the other side of the perspective now. We will, or tell me some keys to victory for the Cowboys to upset the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Well, for the Cowboys offense, it's making Dak feel comfortable. It's, he might not be 100%. I know he practiced completely all week, but you never know with a major injury like that. And especially there's a major injury, it's up here. It's in the head a lot, more than it might be even on your actual body. So, they got to be able to protect him. And if he's running wild, the first 3 or 4 drives that the Cowboys have, he's getting hit. It could be a long night. It really could be. As far as the defense, you got to get pass rush on Brady. You have to. If you let him just sit back there, you don't have the secondary to keep up, and the Bucs weapons are just going to get the best of you. So keep pressure on Brady. It's obviously, everybody says, oh, that's the way to beat Brady. Well, I think pressure is the way to beat almost any quarterback. Just look at the Super
Yeah.
Bowl. Right,
Oh, yeah,
Patrick
exactly.
Mahomes couldn't do anything. So, and it wasn't necessarily all his fault. It's just
Mm.
what can he do when you're constantly being chased? So
I mean,
that's a big
ran for
thing
like
for the
500
Cowboys.
yards running away from play, like
Right.
crazy. Yeah, pressure is vital. One thing, and you can tell me if you disagree with me here, but they got to get the run game going, and obviously that's easier said than done against the number one defense, right? But at least get some efficiency out of Ezekiel Elliott. Maybe if they don't get that run game going, maybe dish the ball out to Zeke. But you got to make sure that you're efficient with Zeke Elliott, in my opinion, to kind of mix things up and get things going. I think if the Cowboys do struggle getting efficiency out of Elliott, I mean, they're going to have a much more difficult time getting the offensive scheme going.
Yeah, I do agree that they need to, be able to have that balance, because you don't want Dak Prescott in the first game back. You don't want him throwing 50 times. You don't want him dropping back and being perceptive to hits or something like that. The issue with that game plan is you lost your best offensive lineman. And like you said, you're against the number one rush defense, not just last year, but the year before that also. So it's not going to be easy.
Yeah.
And the Bucs have a tendency to make teams one dimensional, and that's how they can just tee off. So it's tough, but it's a good game plan for Dallas to follow if they can actually execute it. I just think they're going to have difficulty executing it. Plus, they're also probably going to be playing most of this game, I think, from behind. I think if Brady and the offense, I think, are going to be able to capitalize on most of the opportunities they have.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more there. So let's go ahead and look at the lines according to DraftKings Sportsbook. This did change from last night. So if we look at the money line, the Bucs are minus 435 favorites. Cowboys are plus 330. So if you are high on the Cowboys offense and you are feeling an upset, the Cowboys do come with a pretty good value in the money line. Against the spread, we have Bucs are minus 8.5 favorites, meaning obviously the Cowboys are plus 8.5. And the total is set at over under 51.5. What are you liking here?
I talked about how I think it's going to be a high scoring game. The over there, I like that. As far as I know, I did check, because I checked it. I believe I checked it last night as well, and it was the Bucs were given 8, and then they're given 8.5 now. So I was like,
Right.
I was like, that's really changing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably going to stay away from that. I know a lot of people have predicted a double-digit win for Tampa. If you want to bet on Tampa, I would stay away from that particular one. I would be more inclined to go with the over there.
I'm actually in exact agreement with you. Ultimately, I believe the Bucs will win by more than the touchdown. I think taking them minus 8.5, I think it's a solid bet. But I'm very interested in the over. It was at 52, now at 51.5. Either way, I still like it. So yeah, given that we will be watching two high caliber offenses, I think the over is a very good bet if you feel so inclined. So the bet or the over is where I would be leaning here.
Yep, I agree.
Cool. So we'll go into our last little part, and that's going to be the prop bets heading into the game. Is there anything that you had your eye on?
Well, a particular player prop that I did like was I saw on DraftKings they had Tom Brady's passing yards at just over 304, I believe. I would take the over on that. I do think I don't think it's going to be like, he's not going to pass for like 390 yards, but I think he's going to get a little bit more than they're giving him. I think he'll get a little bit over 300, and I think that's a safe bet. The Bucs are still going to be the same offense that's going to want to air it out against a suspect secondary, a young secondary with their weapons in the second year of the offense for Tom Brady. I think they're going to throw this thing around the yard. And I think even if Brady doesn't have the touchdowns, I think you can still count on him having the yard. So that's a pretty smart bet. And also one that's maybe going a little bit under the radar. Right? Antonio Brown, the over 58.5 receiving yards. Antonio Brown I think, has been the Bucs' best receiver out of training camp. Just like, not saying he's going to be the best receiver or even the most talented guy, but as far as training camp goes, he's been like the guy who has stood out the most. I think he's going to have a huge year, and I think it could start week 1 here. So if you have a chance to get Antonio Brown at that 58.5 number for receiving yards, I would do it.
Yeah. Antonio Brown, that's a very interesting one. Would you recommend someone start him on their fantasy roster this week?
As far as fans, I would definitely, if you have him on your team, good job, because he was one of my sleepers that, he
Mhm.
was going around 7 and 8 and
Yes.
sometimes even 9. I was like, man, you could be getting a nice flex option or even a wide receiver too. Why not? I mean, I do think he's going to have pretty consistent games. And I think this is a game where I think there's going to be so much focus on Mike Evans and Chris Godwin that Antonio Brown could really just burn some people.
Yeah, absolutely. So this one prop bet, not mine. I got to give credit. It's I saw it on the BR betting. Not sure if you're familiar with that. Don't know the guy's name. He liked Ronald Jones to go over 47.5 rushing yards. His reason was, he expects the Bucs to be playing ahead, like basically you mentioned. So he thinks that they're going to try to take head of the quote unquote two-headed monster that the Buccaneers do have. So do you see Ronald Jones getting over 47.5 rushing yards or around that area?
I have not seen that prop bet, but yeah, I do.
I
I
thought it was
do.
solid too.
Yeah, I do think he's going to get, I mean, 47 and a half. That seems like way too low to
Yeah,
me.
that's what I was thinking.
It just, I think, because like you said, there's going to be a point, maybe late third quarter and maybe the entire fourth quarter, where the Bucs are just going to be trying to be, using clock. I
Hmm.
believe Dallas was bottom 5 rushing defense last year. So that favors into it as well. I'm surprised that number is that low, but I would definitely take that.
Yeah, absolutely. And wish I could give myself that credit, but I just can't. Here's what I'm thinking. I did like to see Mike Evans two score touchdown minus 110. Pretty simple, but he is very heavily targeted in the red zone. I think it's a good chance that you see Mike Evans getting a touchdown here on Thursday night. So I do like that one there. And as well, like I mentioned, you got to get some efficiency out of Ezekiel Elliott. I saw Zeke over 3.5 receptions minus 105. If they can't get that run going, dishing it out to Zeke, I think you could see him get 4 receptions. So I think that might be a fair bet to do.
Yeah, that might be something, especially since there's going to be, just like with the Bucs, there's going to be so much focus on their two receivers. I think with the Cowboys, there's going to be so much focus on their trio that maybe the Cowboys try to get something easy, try to get some screens, trying to
Mhm.
get some swing passes. So if it's not Tony Pollard, if they want to keep Zeke in there to give the element of a run possibly, I could definitely see him get 4 or 5 receptions or so. That's a good bet.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll wrap things up. Is there anything that you would like to add about maybe the scheme of this game or anything like that?
Not a whole lot. Obviously the Cowboys are going into this game with a first year defensive coordinator, or in their system at least, Dan Quinn, um, who obviously has played Tom Brady before, most notoriously in the Super Bowl, when he was the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. We all know how that one ended for Mr. Dan Quinn. So Tom Brady historically has done pretty well against Dan Quinn defenses. I don't think that's going to stop. Like, somebody asked me, I was like, man, like, if the Bucs are going to lose this game, I think it's because the defense just completely crapped the bed.
Yeah,
I
I'm in
just think
agreement.
I think if they're going to lose this game, it's going to be because the defense is not where we thought they would be, and I'm not really concerned about the offense, really, like, at all. Of
Yeah.
course, now they'll come out and they'll struggle just because I said that, because that's how things go. But no, I mean, I Tom Brady is 5-0 against the Cowboys, and Dak Prescott is 2-0 against the Bucs. So something's gonna have to give
Mhm.
here.
Yeah.
Mike McCarthy. Real quick note. Mike
Mhm.
McCarthy is pretty good in season openers. Has an 8-5 record in his career.
Oh,
He
okay,
lost.
interesting.
He lost last year in his first year with Dallas, but he has an 8-5 record for his career. Bruce Arians is only 2-5, and he's 0-2 as the Bucs head coach. So I don't know. Maybe there's some first game jitters there. Maybe it takes a
Mhm.
little bit for Bruce Arians teams to really catch their groove, but just something to keep in the back of your mind.
Crazier things have happened in week 1.
That's right. Yeah,
So,
that's right.
yeah. Well, I know, Evan, you gotta get going. Your time is valuable. I very much do so appreciate you being on the show today. It was a pleasure to have you, and maybe one day we can get this going again. But yeah, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, man. Really appreciate it. And yeah, for sure, we can do this again anytime. Yeah, check me out at Cannon Fire Podcast on YouTube. or anywhere you can find a podcast, and also Bucs__daily on Instagram.
You heard the man there. Go and check all that out. He's got a great podcast over there at the Cannon Fire Podcast. Be sure to do so. Evan, thanks again, and we will see you later. All right, man.
All right, thanks, man.